All right, today we are diving deep into a 3,000-year-old scandal that, you'll see, holds up a fascinating mirror to some of our most intense modern debates. We're going to deconstruct the story of King David and Bathsheba to see if we can find a way through all the noise. You know, the noise of Me Too, red pill ideologies, and this constant pressure for instant judgment. This isn't just some old story. The source material we're looking at presents it as a blueprint for finding wisdom in a world that always wants us to just pick a side. So let's get right into it. So that's really the big question we're tackling here, right? In this age of instant judgment from all sides, from Me Too to red pill, what can this ancient story possibly show us about power, about consent, and about the very nature of justice itself? Well, the source material we're exploring today argues it can teach us a whole lot. Okay, first things first, let's talk about power, because the author of our source material is really clear on this. If you look at this situation and just see a simple affair, you're missing the entire point. We absolutely have to start by looking at the massive power imbalance at play here. Now, the author uses this incredibly powerful phrase to frame what happened: existential rapist. The point is, David's summons to Bathsheba, that wasn't an invitation she could just turn down. It was a command. He's described as a thief of innocence, someone who literally manufactures a wicked situation, using his power to trap her and corrupt the whole dynamic. And to really get a feel for this power dynamic, the source emphasizes who David was. We're not talking about just some king. This was King freaking David, the hero who took down Goliath. He was a cultural icon, on the level of a Michael Jackson or a Martin Luther King Jr. of his day. So can you imagine the weight, the sheer force of a summons from a man like that? So you see, the pressure Bathsheba was under wasn't simple at all. The author breaks it down into three distinct layers of coercion. First, you've got the material structure. That's the raw power of the army and the state that can enforce his will, no question. Then there's the social structure, the cultural expectation that, of course, a subject, especially a woman, obeys the king. And finally, you have the resonant structure. That's the personal force of David's own fame, his charisma, his appeal. It was this complex web of pressure that made saying no pretty much impossible. Okay, so this is where things get really challenging. After establishing that huge power imbalance, the source asks us to do something that's, well, it's pretty uncomfortable, especially in our modern world. It asks us to step away from simple, easy narratives and wade into some ambiguity. And to get into that messy reality of the human heart, the author poses this deeply uncomfortable question. Now, let me be super clear. The point of this question is not about blaming the victim, not at all. It's about trying to get to the whole truth. Is it possible she felt both coerced and attracted at the same time? The author argues that being willing to even consider that possibility is crucial for a real, deep understanding of what happened. And to illustrate this point, the author pulls out a reference that you are probably not expecting. The source points out that our own culture, our music, is filled with these complicated feelings of attraction and temptation. We get it in music, right? We sing along to it, we understand that messy dilemma in art, but when it comes to real life, we suddenly want everything to be black and white. So here's the bottom line, what the author is really getting at. In these tough situations, we're always standing at a crossroads. We have a choice. We can go for the simple falsehood, the pure victim versus the evil predator. Or we can choose the harder path, a complex understanding that actually makes room for human fallibility, for messy motives, and for a slower, more careful search for the truth. Okay, so with all this messiness and complexity, how on earth do you get the truth out, especially when you're talking to someone as powerful as King David? Well, the source points us to the incredible story of the prophet Nathan, who used an absolutely brilliant strategy to get past all of the king's defenses. See, Nathan is smart. He knows that just walking in and pointing a finger is going to get him nowhere, or worse. So instead, he tells a story. He paints this picture of a rich man and a poor man, setting a scene that lets David be an impartial judge, totally disconnected from the situation. Or so he thinks. And as Nathan keeps talking, you can just feel David's anger rising. He's listening to the story of profound injustice, this abuse of power by the rich man, and his sense of justice is completely fired up. And he has absolutely no idea, none, that he's about to pass judgment on himself. And then, bam! The hammer drops. This is the incredible climax. The story suddenly becomes a mirror. By getting David to condemn the sin from a distance, Nathan forces the king to see his own reflection in it.
That's how you speak truth to power. It's not just about facts, it's about wisdom.
So, what's the lesson for us? What are we supposed to do with all this? This brings us to the author's final and, I think, most powerful point: how we can use this ancient wisdom to actually find some healing in our own very complicated world. I love this metaphor from the source material. Think about it. True healing, real justice. It can't happen if we're just shaming everyone into hiding their messy parts. Spraying Lysol on a garbage can doesn't actually make it clean, right? You gotta open the lid and deal with the mess inside for real cleaning to happen. So this slide lays out a really practical path forward. First, pursue truth over innocence. This is huge. It means your goal isn't just to prove your side is innocent, but to truly understand the whole messy picture. Then embrace complexity. Just accept that people and their reasons for doing things are rarely simple. And when you do that, it allows for a real kind of forgiveness, one based on understanding our shared human flaws, not just ignoring what went wrong. And this is where the author brings it all home with the direct challenge to a lot of modern thinking. The argument here is that any ideology that oversimplifies people, whether it's certain feminist narratives that deny female agency or red pill and MGTO views that paint women as one-dimensional, is ultimately self-defeating. When we see people as only pure victims or only evil predators, we end up infantilizing them. We rob everyone of their complexity and block the path to any real growth, wisdom, or healing. And that brings us right back to where we started. This 3,000-year-old scandal leaves us with a really urgent question for our own time. In our world of hot takes and instant judgment, in our rush to tweet a verdict and join a side, what are we actually risking? This ancient story seems to be telling us we risk losing the very things that make justice and healing possible: complexity, wisdom, and the courage to seek the whole, messy truth.